There is one more thing which I must cover, otherwise this video series will feel like incomplete, and this is to use the budget and expense tracking system in an optimized way. Notion is a great tool, there is no doubt about it, but at the end of the day it's a third party tool and our data is sitting somewhere in their data center, so it is always better to take a minimal level of backup at our end in case something happens. And there are so many expense types and it is hard to keep track of all those expenses, especially if we are not well organized and mindful about our expense behavior. But that's not all, we also need some planning and process, otherwise using the system is going to be a difficult task. I shall cover all of this in this video. Let's start with the first one. You already know how to add expense to the monthly budget database. If the expenses are related to fresh items, then we just need to open the fresh item record from the monthly budget database, then click on this new and enter the amount and done. But let's assume you are making the expense entries every week, and in any given week you can have multiple expenses under this fresh item. You can enter all of those one by one, like at the first one with the value of 20, second one let's say amount is 30, third one let's say the amount is 40. And this is just fresh items. There are other expense types as well. So you can imagine it is going to take a lot of time if we want to make the entries for all those expenses like we just did. And this is not an efficient way to add the expenses in the system. We must always try to do our job with minimal effort and best optimal way. Let me show you how I do it for my system on a weekly basis. This is not the best way, but at least it is better than adding all the individual expense in the system. I have this Google Sheet template and these expense types are same as what I have got in my budget and expense tracking system. In a given week, under any expense type, I capture all the expenses in the corresponding column. Then I have this row where I sum up all the values and then I enter this value to the system. For example, if under fresh items I have 3 different expenses like 20, 30 and 40, I enter all those values here, but when I make the entry into the budget and expense tracking system, I just make one entry with the total value, which is 90 in this case. So instead of this 20, 30 and 40 we just entered, I would just make one entry with the value of 90. I hope you got the point. I also have these two dates in the template. The first one is when I am making the entry to the system. So for example, I had the last entry on 5th of July in my system, and the second date is until which date the data is being captured. Most of the times it is going to be same unless there is a reason for which it has to be different. Notion is a reliable tool and there is no doubt about it. The user data is securely stored and well organized. However, I always prefer to keep a backup of my data, a minimal version of it, in some other place. It's not about creating another system or duplicating the effort much. In fact, it is very easy. Let me show you how. You see this highlighted top line? This is the weekly summation of all the expenses under each expense type, and I just copy paste this to another tab, which is this one, and I have all the weekly backup data here. Very easy, isn't it? I shall put a link of this template in the video description. I know this expense tracking is time consuming and this is not easy. So we have to find out ways to make it less time consuming and easy to follow. We need to plan and organize our spend in such a way so that we can keep track of the expenses easily. Everyone's situation is different and we cannot have a single solution that can fit into all different scenarios. But let me tell you how I plan my spend to keep track of the expenses easily, and that might give you some clue on how you can plan yours. I use lot of credit cards for my spend. For all my fresh item related expenses, I use a dedicated card which is linked to the UPI payment. For groceries, I use Amazon Pay and another prepaid food card. Most of my bills are paid using bank direct debit, and a few bills I pay using the credit card and Amazon Pay. I have another dedicated card that I use for major expenses like my daughter's school fees or fuel purchase or shopping and things like that. I usually don't pay in cash. It's the last sort of payment that I prefer because keeping track of cash transactions is really hard. Since all my transactions are either by credit card or Amazon Pay or bank direct debit, so whenever such transaction happens, I get email notification, and I have set up rules in Gmail to filter these transaction related emails accordingly, and this helps me with my expense tracking. I then spend around 30 to 40 minutes over the weekend to go through all these emails, the bank statements and UPI transaction history to make the expense entries into my budget and expense tracking system. I have been doing this for more than 2 years now. It certainly takes time and feels complex at the beginning, but gradually it becomes a habit and the process gets optimized automatically. You will see the benefit once you start tracking your expenses on a regular basis in a system like this. With this, we have come to the end of this video series. I hope you found this video series useful. If you still have any doubt or you need any help, please feel free to comment. We can connect and discuss. If you are interested to see my budget and expense tracking system, then please comment, and if I get enough requests, then I'll give a walkthrough of my budget and expense tracking system. By the way, I have some additional things in my budget and expense tracking system, and you may find that quite interesting. Lastly, if you found this video useful, then please like and subscribe. My YouTube channel is new, so every like, comment and subscribe matters a lot, so please help me with that. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you in the next video with a new topic. Until then, take care. Bye bye.